Hi everybody. So I just wanted to do a quick sort of commemorative 10k stream. Thanks to everyone who's subbed over the years and watched all of my various drivel. As it is, I'm enjoying myself. I'm having fun editing videos together. My time to do it may become more limited next year, and I will continue to focus on subjects that I feel motivated to make a video about. I won't necessarily be sort of making videos that I should make or in my imagination should make to get more engagement. I'll just try and do good quality stuff. That's the kind of stuff that I would want to watch, and hopefully that will lead me in the right sort of direction. Right, so on to the Q&A. First question is from blues to bebop. How? I mean, that's a difficult question to answer in the space of a YouTube Q&A. I would say concentrate on the way the notes are played as well as on the notes. You'll get lots of information about 2-5-1s and stuff, but really it's the way the notes are played. So if I play a pentatonic scale, the jazz style, right? It's distinctly jazz, it's not. Now, obviously, one difference is I'm using different kind of pick attack and bending and vibrato in the blues example, whereas I'm not doing that for the jazz example. But the other thing is actually timing. Blues is often quite ahead of the beat. It's quite declamatory. It's like, listen, I'm saying this thing. Whereas jazz is a bit more like, it's a bit more relaxed. It's a bit more behind the beat, in the pocket, all that stuff. And that's very intuitive difference. You can try and quantify it. I mean, there's people from the Max Planck Institute who've tried to do that in Germany. Hard to quantify. Nobody learns it that way. We all learn it intuitively by listening to the music and trying to imitate what we hear. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. So that's that. In terms of the language and everything else, I've done some videos on how to apply language, how to learn and apply bebop language. It's licks like anything else. Thing is, the main difference between that and blues, but you do hear good blues players playing the changes, right? You have to do the right thing on the right part of the tune, okay? Then a lot of people struggle with that because they don't really learn structure, or they don't really learn to play structurally. They just go like, well, this is the key, I'm going to play my shred all over the place, whatever it happens to be. And you have to know a bit about the song to play jazz. You have to know, even for 12-bar blues, you have to know where the 2-5-1 lick goes or where the minor pentatonic sounds best, and so on. So I think that's another thing that a lot of students I've had find a little bit challenging. But I think all of that stuff will also make you a stronger blues or rock player or whatever it is that you do as well. Because good blues playing isn't just playing the minor pentatonic over a 12-bar progression. It's about actually really knowing the history and paying your dues and knowing all the phrases and listening carefully to what goes on in those records. And, I knew that when I was 15, not that I did it, but, when I was a blues head, that's what all the blues people said. They said, you've got to pay your dues, you've got to listen to the music, you've got to check it out and learn your licks and your songs and everything else. And yeah, I mean, that's music, isn't it? I don't know. So here's another one. Again, it's a similar sort of vein, I guess. It's like phrasing and how to make the best out of the right and sometimes the wrong notes. Yeah, I like the way you asked that question. So make the best out of the right notes. Yeah, because you can play all of the right notes that you see in the book and it can sound absolutely rubbish. And then you listen to Miles Davis play a sustained 11th on a dominant chord and it sounds fantastic, and then you look in the book and it tells you that it's wrong because it's an avoid note. So basically, you have to learn how jazz sounds and feels. That means, guess what? Transcribing, listening, all that kind of stuff. I would say that in general, the note at the end of the phrase is the one to aim for. So if I'm playing something like, I can really play anything I want leading up to a chord tone. So if I'm going to, for some reason I'm playing an A, must be all the talk of the blues. There we go. I can play whatever I like there. I can play it, or I could play it. I mean, that's just random chords. The first one was just like a half step below. The other one was a tritone away. There's no reason why one would do that harmonically, other than because it has lots of interesting notes that need to be resolved. You can turn that into a 2-5-1 line by going, okay, so let's start on the full chord. That's not harmonically anything to do with the 5 chord. This is the 5 chord here. But it works. Same with this tritone chord. This is a half step below the 5 chord, right? So we go. So I can go. So it's where I start maybe, but definitely where I end up, which dictates which notes I use, and the notes I end up on are generally some sort of chord tone. Okay, I mean that's the long and the short of it. But really, you've just got to look at jazz lines and sort of learn to intuit, learn how to feel how they kind of work. I'm sorry if that's a little bit of a vague seeming answer, but these are the sorts of things that are hard to teach, right? Which is why people don't talk about them on the whole. There's a question about 2-5-1s. Let's find it. Oh yeah, how to create longer chord progressions using 2-5-1s. What I find frustrating is there are plenty of examples of different ways to play a 2-5-1, but not much anywhere on how to make a piece of music about 2-5-1. Sorry, how to make your own music with them. Yeah, okay. So the 2-5-1 is decoration, right? The important thing is the 2-5. The 2-5 is a decoration of a 5 chord. So if I play something like Happy Birthday, 10,000 subscribers to me, 10,000 subscribers to me, 10,000 subscribers to me, 10,000 subscribers to me. Okay, something like that, right? It's 3 chords, but you can decorate them with 2-5s. So, for instance, I'd do a bossa nova version. And a bad 2-5 here. Yeah, something like that, for instance. I mean, that's just applying some formulae that just put 2-5s into what is already like a 3-chord functional chord progression, right? I should do a video on that. But there are other videos, I think, out there which sort of talk about this kind of stuff. For me, a 2-5-1 is a decoration, not a fundamental chord progression. You could write a song with 3 chords even, proper guitarist style. And then you can turn that into something jazz just by knowing how harmony works. And explaining how that works is perhaps beyond the scope of this Q&A, but it's an idea for a video. I'll have a think about that. Here's one I really liked, of course. People always like being told about their own tunes, or talking about their own tunes. It says, this may really need to be its own video, but could you discuss your piece Mount Inari as an example of contemporary writing? It's too damn good. Oh, thank you. Also a question about writing in unconventional time signatures without sounding overly mathematical. Those are both very good questions. I'd like to answer both of them. Okay, so the first one, Mount Inari is off my album, which I can't really call a new album anymore, although I will do so in the description probably. Okay, so I just want to... This is actually a bit of a technical piece in the sense that I thought of this as being a sort of idea, a theory idea, and then just basically wrote it from that mindset, and then at some point the inspiration kicked in and it became more organic. So I started off with a very clear idea of what I was doing. The chord progression is based on Out of Nowhere, and I've subbed the chords. So every single chord quality in the tune is a major 7 sus2, one of these, and the first chord is a G, as it is in the original Out of Nowhere, and the second chord in Out of Nowhere, I mean often people play a 2-5 there, but it's just an E flat 7 really, and then I just substitute in the major 7th for the step down, and we get this tritone motion, which is quite interesting. So now I turn that into, and then back to G major again. And then next one, E7 alt. I mean, it's not really half step above, so it's F minor major 7th, and if you just turn that into a sus2, you get rid of the minor 3rd, right? So we end up with this. Then we go back between these two. This is like a substitution for A minor E7, right? Relative major, and then this altered thing, right? And then we get back to the flat 7, D flat major, and then, sorry about the tuning, I use the F major 7 there because it sounds kind of cool. But anyway, I'll attach a link to the lead sheet. It's all just using substitution formulae for the original chords of Out of Nowhere. And if you have a look at that, you might be able to suss out what I'm doing. Meanwhile, the melody is chord scale based. So I'm using the basic chord scales that one might have. Okay, so that's G major 7th there. I'm just playing the Ionian or major scale. I think there it's the Lydian. Then the same thing. Treatiness is altered. Okay, this is just like the basic sort of jazz education chord scales, right? So what I'm then doing with them is, as a melodic idea, I'm breaking them up intervallically into steps and fourths. So the melody goes. Yeah, up to the A. So step, fourth, step, fourth. Okay? And then coming down, it's like a little bit of a scale and some fifths. So just going for that intervallic sound. And the same thing on the D flat major. So we're going step, down a fourth. So we're changing the pattern. And that's the F major 7 sus2 there. And then we've got this again, this pattern. We change scale there to fit the E altered or F melodic minor. And so on, right? And that's basically what we're doing. It's not entirely based on those intervals. I've added in some other stuff to make it sound more melodic. But the basic idea of it is to take the chord scales and break them up into intervals of a second and a fourth. That's the kind of basis of the melody of it. But I mix it up with other stuff to make it sound more organic. Now, the odd time thing. So all jazz is in odd time. It's just we're playing it over 4/4, by which I mean, like, if I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, we're putting odd groupings over 4/4, right? Could be groupings of 5, could be groupings of 3, 6, whatever. You have this in the older stuff. Like Django was using groupings of 5 back in the 30s, right? I think we might have done a video on this a while back. So the problem of odd time is not playing in odd time, it's keeping track of where the 1 is. Okay? And I find conical quite useful for this. Conical is the Indian rhythmic solfeggio. But the thing I find really useful about conical is this business. So 1, 2, 3. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 aditalam. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1. And that gives you a way of counting physically. So for odd time, if you want to do 7, 4, for instance, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So if I wanted to keep track of like a grouping of 3 in 7, 4, for instance, I could count like this. Like that. So, and I go takida over the top. Takida, taki, ta, 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 ta. Okay, and that sort of physicalizes it for me a little bit. It gives you a way of physicalizing it, and that's a difficult bit. The reason why people sort of sound a bit stiff in odd time, including me, is because we are not effortlessly keeping track of where the 7 is, so we can't play with the same rhythmic freedom as we do when we're playing bebop in 4. You know, I generally know where the 1 is when I'm playing in 4. Not always, but most of the time. And if you're playing in 7, especially like one of the time signatures with the 8s in, I don't know what you call those, like 7, 8, 5, 8. 5, 8's the hardest apparently. One of those, it can be very difficult to keep track of where the 1 is, and you end up losing it and then looking at the drummer. It's so common. And conical is a way of developing that effortless skill to be able to keep track of where the 1 is in odd time. Also, you know, obviously in parts of the world like Balkans, for instance, people play music habitually in 7, and it's not necessarily a mathematical 7, so things like that's all right. So it's the bap bap babadi bap 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 babadi. I always find it very hard to play in those kind of fast 7s. There's certain musicians I play with who call that stuff in a lot, you know, or the duckety duckety da da duckety duckety da da duckety duckety da da duckety duckety da da, or duckety duckety da da duckety duckety da da duckety 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 da da, which I can't remember. Is it's 10 duckety duckety da da, that's 10, and duckety duckety da da, that's also 10. Duckety 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 da, that's 12. Ducky ducky da da. So it's I think, what's it, 42, and is that right, 42/8? Oh, something silly. Anyway, so yeah, you can just by putting things together like that, you can come up with very silly time signatures. Bobbity bombity bomb bomb, bobbity bobbity bop bop, buckety duckety 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 da da, duckety duckety da da, duckety duckety da da, duckety 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 da da. I mean, nobody solos over that, but at least we usually solo in 10 because it's a bit easier. But that's a piece called Longer Kismet by a guy called Peter Michaels, which has that time signature in it. It's fun to play. Anyway, hope that helps. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.